Win Today Hockey O'Clock.
This is episode 222 of Win Today Hockey O'Clock, and it's a special one because we've returned to the great Win Today studio in Vienna, and we have a returning guest also. It is only the winningest head coach in Win Today Ice Hockey League history. It's always a great pleasure having you here, talking to you. Coach Rob Daum, so glad that you joined the show.
I'm glad to be here. You usually follow that up with I've had the most losses too, isn't it? That's usually how you follow it up.
No, I won't.
Okay.
It's the most wins. It's the most wins.
Let's not mention that then.
The follow-up would be, and championship winning head coach too.
Perfect. That's nice. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thanks for following up on the invitation. Last time around that we did this here in Vienna, it's already been some time. I think it was in January. Now the new league year or the new season is underway, and I wanted to bring you in to talk about some early season storylines, some things that you kind of been able to dissect, some trends, maybe something that we can follow up on too. But first of all, I want to start with you personally. How have you been doing, and how many phone calls have you been getting? You're still a free agent coach, unfortunally. Well, fortunately for me.
Well, me too. No, it's been. I'm doing well, thank you. I just watching lots of hockey and trying to stay as busy as I can. I fill my days with whatever I can do to pass the time, and like I say, I watch a lot of games at night to try and stay on top of things. It's been a really interesting start to the hockey season, especially here in Austria. There's a lot of interesting things happening, and it's fun to be a part of.
What I haven't told the people out there yet, you're still sporting the beard. And for all the listeners out there who have just listened to this, if you're on your Spotify feed for the first time ever in Win Today Hockey O'Clock history, you should be able to watch the video on a podcast too. That comes in handy at the later stage of this podcast because we're dissecting how teams were kind of built graphically, and we're dissecting two aspects or one aspect for two different teams with some clips and your expertise on it. If you're not listening to this on Spotify, you can also go to the show notes of the podcast, and that will lead you to a YouTube link. However you prefer enjoying and watching or listening to Win Today Hockey O'Clock, there's a way for everybody. But Rob Daum, you have to see him in person because looking great, and your analysis, no pressure on you, is going to be even better. So very much looking forward to that one.
Well, hopefully it's better than I look. Wouldn't take much.
Well, we'll let the listeners and the viewers be judges of that. But when we talk about you following the league, you had a tremendously successful time in Linz. You had a very successful time in Villach too. Like with you as a head coach, teams were already able to print the playoff tickets in October or November. Are those two teams that you focus on a little closer, or when you follow the league, how do you follow it? Is it all the teams, certain aspects?
Well, I try and follow all the teams and just to see how teams are doing certain things, how they're playing, what they did in the summer, if it's paying any dividends for them as far as their personnel and how their teams were built and those type of things, and seeing whether they've had success with how they've approached going into the season. And this season, I thought there were legitimately 10 teams that could finish in the top 6. And so I follow that really with a lot of interest to see if that's definitely the case. And based on the early start, I would say that that's a fair assessment.
Teams have now played between 8 and 10 games. We're recording this on a Thursday. This will air on the usual Wednesday slot. So there's a weekend of play in between, and with the standings being as tight as they are, a good weekend can get you up top, or it could get you down the standings. So we're not talking about like specific or very specific things where we don't know what will be or might be happening on the weekend, but some of the early season trends and some of the things that have already surprised us, we will talk about that. So biggest surprise for you so far, positively or negatively?
Well, I've got two surprises. I think the first thing is, on the positive side, is Ljubljana. I looked at their roster and I thought, geez, they did a lot of really good things here, but you never...
We'll have an in-depth look just now.
And so that has been a bit of a surprise, and the amount of goals they're scoring. Like it's unbelievable right now how their offense is on a tear. They've scored twice as many goals as some of the teams in the league, which really is amazing. And so that is a surprise on the positive side, and on the negative side, I'm a little bit surprised with the situation in Linz, with them being in last place as we speak. Today they got off to a tough start last season as well, so I don't think there's any reason for the people in Linz to panic, but it's a bit of a surprise because they had a very successful season last year and they brought a lot of those returning players to the team again this year. So you would think that would be the impetus for a solid start, but unfortunately that hasn't been the case. And I think there's, and the thing that scares me about that is Lebler's off to a good start, Knott's off to a good start, and so their top players are performing. And usually when you get off to or having tough times, your top guys aren't getting the job done. But right now they are. Their power play's effective. So it's just a bit of a mystery as to why they're in the position they're in. But it's, 9 games in or something. So it's still...
It's only 8 for Linz.
So it's still early. But with the quality of the league, you fall a certain distance behind. With good teams ahead of you, it makes it tough.
So as at the time of this recording, the teams that you just mentioned, they're sitting at opposite ends of the standings. Ljubljana is leading the league. Linz is surprisingly in last place. And you've already kind of alluded to the offensive output that Ljubljana has shown, their prowess for scoring, but it hasn't. They haven't had the only high-scoring games. Like, there have been a lot of shootouts. There have been a lot of blowouts too. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of that is because of Ljubljana. If you look at the blowouts, they've been involved in a lot of them. Pustertal went into Innsbruck and won 8-1.
Yeah, but the other day they had a 6-7 against Innsbruck.
Exactly. So they're involved in a lot of the high scoring. The one thing that I might say is the power plays. There's a few more power play opportunities, and the power plays, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams with a power play percentage of 20% or over at this time of the year. So that generates a lot of offense when your power play's clicking at that rate. So I think that could be a factor as to why there's being some goals scored that maybe wouldn't be scored otherwise.
I was looking at the 3 teams that are sitting at a power play percentage of 30% plus, which is basically unheard of, and maybe there's going to be some regression to the mean, but some of the power plays indeed are off to a very hot start.
Yeah.
A team that's been off to hot starts before is Red Bull Salzburg, the 4-time defending champion. And in this exercise, we kind of wanted to educate the viewers out there, the listeners out there, a little bit about the construction of teams. And obviously, no surprise, Salzburg with one of the biggest budgets, if not the biggest budget, with possibilities that other teams don't have. There's a funny story that you mentioned off the records about like imports that are on offer for certain teams. I hope that you'll enlighten the viewers and listeners a little bit too. How does it work when teams get imports offered, or how did it work back then in Linz?
Well, both my times in Linz and Villach were not high budget teams. So we'd get lists of players from agents, and we hear that other players might be available. So we'd contact the agent and say, well, what about this guy? And he says, hey, I said, well, he's not on your list. And he said, well, he's on the Salzburg Klagenfurt list, but not the Linz list, because the budget was no chance that we were going to get that player. So he didn't even bother to send his name to us.
So just to hammer this point home, there are different lists of players for different clubs.
Well, I don't know if this is what this agent said. He just kind of laughed when he brought up the player's name, because there was no chance we could afford to get him. So he said, I didn't even bother to send you his name.
So a head coach in the league a couple of years ago told me, and this is probably a telltale sign too, he told me, well, of course we get offered a player like Jay Ganaway, but he himself costs as much as my entire defense. Yeah. So we're right along those lines.
Talking about the same thing.
Salzburg, juggernaut as always. They've won the championship 4 times in a row, and we decided to have a look at their roster and how they've been constructed. From the outside looking in, they only got stronger. And if we look at the graphics right here, what we tried to do in this exercise is kind of come up with a best case scenario squad for Salzburg. A lot of people still injured, but we assume this could be the team that Salzburg lines up in a best case scenario. For the simplicity, or the sake of simplicity, we just came up with 6 defensemen and obviously 12 forwards and 2 goaltenders. And what stands out here with all the injuries that Salzburg is currently having, if all of them return to full strength, it's a pure luxury, because as of right now, there's no Ali Vukovic on there, there's no Vadim Schreiner on there, there's no Matthias Böhm on there, there's no Philipp Wimmer on there. So those are 4 Austrian players that other teams would kill for. And if Salzburg is at full strength, an embarrassment of riches. If you look at the collection of players that they have, what goes through your mind?
Well, the thing that interests me was, well, the first thing I see is that their goaltending. They've got 2 Austrian goaltenders. I say that with quotation marks. Top notch. They don't lose anything. If Tolvanen doesn't play for whatever reason, Kickert has been a really good job of stepping in and playing well, so they don't lose anything in the back end. They've got 5 import defensemen. Nobody else has that, and that's a real good luxury. And they have a defense that's built with. They've got size, they've got strength, they've got toughness, they've got skill. So it's a well constructed defense. Up front, I think Mickey Raffel is just a huge addition to their lineup. I'm a big Raffel fan. Their father included. I can't say enough about what they bring to the table as hockey players and as people. And then other teams, and we'll look at it, they have older players to fill some of those spots. Saint Denis is a guy that they added. He's got a good pedigree, but Coe hasn't played yet. Bork is someone who they have experience with, so they like him up front. And you look at the depth of their domestic players. It's a real solid lineup, but it's not one that's has a lot of. If you look at some of the other teams we'll look at, they don't have a lot of AHL or NHL experienced players. I mean, not a lot of experience, and they're a little bit younger. Corcoran's a little bit younger. Newhouse is a little bit younger. Stevens isn't an old player. So they're constructed a little bit differently than some of the other teams we'll look at.
Maybe with the exception of the 2 Raffles and Peter Schneider's getting up there in age too, they're almost all in their hockey primes, mid to late 20s. So that does stand out too. How about the quote-unquote flexibility that they have when it comes to the center position? Bork can move inside. Michi Raffel can play centerman too. Some of the other players, Baltram, whom they used a lot on the wing, play center now. Vukovic can do the same. Again, embarrassment of riches for the sake of repeating myself, but how advantageous is that you can move players around all the time?
From a coach's perspective, it's huge. And the other thing, I mean, they've won 4 consecutive championships with 2 different coaches, and that doesn't happen very often. And I think
and a third different coach is trying to make it 5 in a row.
And I think usually you'd say, well, that's going to be tough, but I think it's a good thing for Salzburg to have Manny, a different voice coming in, because you can get complacent. You win, you hear the same voice. They won 2 championships, new voice. They won 2 championships, new voice. So I think that makes them that's an advantage for them to have a new coach as experienced and as good at his job as Manny.
Salzburg still the team to beat?
I think so. I mean, they have to be. They've won 4 championships in a row. You can't diminish that, and until you've knocked them off, they have to be the team to beat. But I think there's some teams that are obviously going to be tough contenders.
And that's the unfortunate thing, that we're recording this before the next weekend of the Winter Day ICE Hockey League, because on this weekend there's the first battle between Salzburg and Ljubljana, and Ljubljana is the next team that we look at, and how their roster was constructed. Interestingly enough, a former Salzburg assistant, Ben Cooper, now their head coach. And if we look at Ljubljana, and again, this is kind of a mixture of talent available right now. Sean Lalonde still in the back pocket. Great Slovenian core. tremendous import players. I mean, led by Zach Boychuk, pardon me. You said they were similarly constructed to Salzburg. Why is that?
Well, I think the depth of their team, and you mentioned the local players, that gives them 4 solid lines. The thing that sticks out for me compared to some of the other teams, they have older players here. Brennan is an older player. Boychuk is an older player. Patan is a little bit older player. So this is an older team. And the other thing is they've got players that have experience in the league. They brought in players like Patan and Kurchenko and Halbert. They're all guys that have had experience in the league. So it's a very experienced team. And if you look at the people they brought in players that have played at a high level. So that's the thing that for me sticks out. They're looking at win now with the age of their team and the players that they brought in. I think the fact that Ben Cooper is there, he has a relationship with Brennan, and he has a relationship with Meyer, and I think that probably helped in him. Well, I think that helped in their good start because first of all, he got the players, or helped get the players there. I think I saw an article with Brennan saying that was one of the reasons he came to Ljubljana was because Cooper was there. And he's comfortable with Meyer because he's there now and they're leading the league in scoring. So, and then Boychuk is an older player, but he's got a terrific resume. He's an NHL player, he's played in the top leagues wherever he's played. And even though he's 35, he still, his year last year was not a poor year. So he's coming to a different league, which hopefully keeps him motivated. What you always worry about when you get older players is do they have anything left to give to you? Because are they just here playing out the string? But it's obvious by the way that Ljubljana started that that's not the case with the players they brought in. They're all having terrific years, terrific starts to their year.
It's now October, and a lot can happen between October and the start of the playoffs. And last year we saw that Salzburg, just at the right time of the year, got its full squad back and were the juggernaut that everybody expected. Now they have injuries again, but a lot of returnees or a lot of players might be returnees come playoff time, or hopefully will be, because you always want to see teams at their full strength. But if this lineup,
unless you're playing them,
yeah. But if that's of course completely right. But if this lineup maybe gets an addition or two with Lalonde coming back at some point in time, and if they stay healthy, can they give Salzburg a run for their money?
Well, that's a good question. And again, it's early. If you look at Ljubljana last year, they had a great start to their season as well. They were in the top 6 for a couple months. They were right there, and then they went into a bit of a tailspin and made a coaching change. But, I would still give the edge to Salzburg because these guys haven't been there before. And it's tough to put together a team and knock off a champion if they're healthy, but I think they definitely would be, they'll be competitive, no question.
Because what we try to do is kind of group the 4 teams where, and it's basically trying to read tea leaves, but after Salzburg, we try to decipher the off-season moves of 4 teams where you and I both think that they could be competing at the later stage of this year. Ljubljana is one of them, and another one of them is Hockey Club Falkensteiner Pustertal. New names, a new name, a lot of new faces. And again, you said this is one of 3 teams alongside Ljubljana and the next one that we're going to talk about that's been constructed similarly to Salzburg. Why in this case too?
Well, I think
how in this case too?
Well, they've got depth. They've got good local players, domestic players. The Italian teams have the advantage that they're able to get passports, which takes a import player and makes him an Italian player because he can cook a good bowl of pasta. He gets a chance to have an Italian passport. His
granddad had a two-week vacation.
Whatever it might be. But anyway, that's the way it is. And they've got, and what I like what they've done with their team is they brought in younger players that have played in the American Hockey League or at higher levels all the time, which tells you that they've got a good pedigree. And then the depth, like Bartol is like that. where's he? Bowlby is like that, and so they're proven players at a high level that can provide some offense. Now it's just a matter of them putting their team and building it into a unit. Because we talked about a couple different times, you buy players, you build teams. So what we're looking at here is I think they've got a good team on paper. Now it's a matter of being able to put that into a good solid team framework, and I think that's where Salzburg has the advantage, obviously, because they've been together, they've got that core together, they've won together, and that gives them a leg up, and that's why, you know, that's what these teams have to establish in order to unseat them. And I think that the talent level of Pustertal puts them, you know, in that conversation.
In what regard would you say that Pustertal had their lessons learned, because there was huge turnover on head coaching position? They past years always kept bringing in new people and new imports if they weren't satisfied. Again, on paper, this seems really good. Like, the sportive product has been good as well.
Oh, yeah.
And from a scouting and import aspect, bringing in younger players finally, because Pustertal was a very old team.
Yes.
So the last couple of years too. Lessons learned here?
Well, we'll see. You know, but they brought in Tikar, which obviously an older player, but that's fine. In general, they brought in younger players, and so I guess they didn't feel their philosophy was working in the past, and they're going to go in a different direction. And I will see if it reaps benefits for them, but that's definitely what they've done. But still good players. They're just good players that are a little bit younger, and we'll see if they have success with that formula.
I was talking about giving Salzburg a run for its money, and a team that's been doing this in the past with 2 semifinals against Salzburg, one that just one that went the distance to Game 7. Obviously, 3 years ago we had finals Game 7 between Salzburg and Bolzano is the other juggernaut south of the border, if you will. And Bolzano has had quite some turnover too. New head coach, new imports, and like every news item I got out of Bolzano, I'm looking at a player and I'm like, wow, they're really going for it. When you had a look at Bolzano's lineup, what did you think?
Well, they've been really consistent over the years of having top 6 competitive teams and teams able to challenge for the championship. They've won a couple championships in their time in the league, and they have a formula that they pretty much stick to. They've added a couple older players with top-notch experience, but if you look at the players they've added, they're all players, again, that have experience in top leagues. So you're not getting players from Canadian University or straight out of the NCAA or the ECHL. You're getting players that have played in the DEL, have played in the American League, have sprinkling of NHL experience. So you're getting very, very talented players, and they've used the same formula here. They've got some holdovers that are good. They've got McClure and Gaisley, who are proven
still going
players.
strong.
Yeah, still very, very solid, and their local core is excellent. So again, they've got 4 lines and 6 defensemen that can play them.
And 5 of them imports,
Yes.
even though technically only 4.
Exactly. So that's sort of. I think last year they tried to match Salzburg's size in some ways and didn't quite get it done, and they've changed their. I still think they have a solid core. I don't think they've changed their philosophy, but they've taken players from the top leagues, and they're going to mold them into a team. Schneider is a top goal scorer, and Ribeiro on the back end is a high quality defenseman. So they build good teams there pretty much every year.
Before we talk about the last team that you mentioned and that's been built a little bit differently, I want to get to a kind of blueprint. I mean, if there were a blueprint, teams would have used it to beat Salzburg. But if you had to start a team from scratch and could put it together in whatever way you want, what's the things, what are the characteristics that you're looking for to beat Salzburg? Is it physicality first? Because like I was talking to Dennis Robertson the other day, and then obviously during last year's playoffs, and Salzburg with the 5 import Ds who got size, who got toughness, who at times a roughness too. If Salzburg's clamping down, you don't get access to the slot area. So I probably go, and that's maybe naive, with a certain kind of physicality that at the very least needs to resemble Salzburg's physicality. Or are you looking for speed? Are you looking for tremendously skilled players? What's if you had to come up with one, and I know that's a difficult question and a loaded question, what could be a blueprint to beat Salzburg?
Well, I don't think you can beat Salzburg at their game. So you have to find a way to get them off their game and have something that you can do to make them make adjustments to what you're doing. And whether it's having a team that's so much faster than they are, or having a team that's skilled. If I get and one of the things that I think goes unnoticed with Salzburg that is their leadership. I think they have great leadership. So if I was building a team to beat them, I would find someone or a core of people that have the same level of commitment to do whatever it takes to win. And no matter what style of player you might be, that would have that commitment to win is what that Salzburg has. That's where I would try and match them, is that commitment to win, to do whatever it takes to win. Because if you look at the playoffs, the last couple of years, Salzburg really excelled in that area. They did whatever it took to win. They'd block shots, they'd do whatever. And so you find players that are willing to do that at the skill level needed to win a championship. Does that make sense?
It more than does, and I was trying to confront you with, or I will confront you with, something that I heard over and over again from former championship-winning players in Salzburg. And it's not only, I guess, if a lot of people are saying it, it's not a rumor anymore, but rumor always had it that Salzburg practices differently once the calendar turns to the new year. So from January onwards, they practice differently with a high intensity to get themselves ready for the playoffs. Does it surprise you at all?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. I guess my philosophy would be practice hard all the time, in order to.
I guess there's practicing hard, and then in Salzburg's case, even harder.
Oh, okay. No, it doesn't surprise me. You have to prepare yourself for what lies ahead, for sure.
And that's the thing about Salzburg. You need to be on top of your game. You need to have your roster at your full disposal. And as players go, sometimes you need some bounces too. And Salzburg had a lot of them. But one of the competitors that we made out for Red Bull Salzburg that, again, could give them a run is now in the second year of a new kind of ownership, a new president, an influx of money, and they've made no secret about it. Mm-hmm. It's the Graz 99ers, and they've had an up and down start to the year, but you said it's an interesting team because they were constructed a little bit differently than the four that we've already talked about. So different than Salzburg, different than Ljubljana, Bolzano, and Pustertal. Why is this Graz squad different?
Well, the first thing is it reminded me of Schneider in Philadelphia when he was the owner. He said he had Bobby Clark then as the general manager in the 70s, or not the 70s. Bobby Clark played in the 70s, but later he became general manager. And Schneider said, "I gave Bob Clark an unlimited budget, and he exceeded it." And I think it's, and I'm not trying to be, I guess it's well known that Graz has gone out and spent a lot of money. And the thing that with the way Graz is built is they have found what they feel are the top domestic players that are available, and they've added them to their team. They've done that over the last couple of years.
Kanal, Huber,
all of those guys.
Stapelfeld. I mean,
exactly.
Getting players from Salzburg used to be really difficult.
Well, impossible. The only time you got players from Salzburg is when they didn't want them anymore. I mean, they're scattered all around the league, but they had their chance to make it, and Salzburg didn't, and then you got a chance to get them. Graz has taken players from Salzburg. It was similar in Klagenfurt. In the past, you never got the players from Klagenfurt. Klagenfurt's budget has changed, and now their approach is a little bit differently. I mean, Ganal and Hodam over the last couple of years have left Klagenfurt, which never would have happened in the past, to go to Graz. So they've built their team And they've added Feldner this year, and you mentioned the young defenseman from Salzburg. So they're continually adding. They've got a very deep team. They're 4 lines deep. They've got solid domestic players through their lineup. They've got scoring has been. They've been up and down. They've added Chris Collins, who I'm a big fan of from my time in Filac. I wouldn't consider him a scorer, but he's a very dangerous player. And they've got some other people like Svaney and Curry who should be able to score for them. And if they're able to do that, then they're going to potentially be dangerous. But again, they have to find their they have to build their team. They've got their roster, now they have to build their team. And there's a lot that goes into that. It's a science and an art. The science is getting the players. The art is having them work together and having them finding ways to maximize their strengths, finding people that work well together, having an attitude that is a win-first attitude within your locker room, and putting the team first is an art for a coach to get his team to play with that type of mentality, and that's not that's the challenge that they face, because all the pieces are there, but you have to put all the pieces together, and that's the art of building your team.
And money is only part of it. And the interesting thing is there's a new Winter Day Hockey Clock original series out there. The last part will debut later today at 6 p.m. It's called The, capital letters, THE, The Manager. It's about Oliver Piloni, KC general manager, who's been there a decade and a half. And if you survive for such a long time and have so many successes as Oliver did, I thought it's just right to dedicate an entire series to him. And the series to this point has been very well received. So thank you all for listening. And he mentioned something on last week's episode that was about financing, like teams, coaches, the entire organization. So we talked about finances a lot. And we were talking about salary numbers. And a couple of years ago, the kind of threshold for an elite player, or at the very least a player who's up there in salary, was 100,000 and rumor always had it that Klagenfurt had several of them. Mm-hmm. And last year he said this year there's only one of them, but now rumor has it that Graz has several of them. If we're looking at the players that he got from Salzburg, the great domestic players, I mean, what would it take to, if you had to put a guesstimate on it, to get players of that status and get them from Salzburg? Are we talking 6-figure numbers? Are we in that ballpark?
Well, I think it would depend how much money they were making in Salzburg. Like if you're making, I don't know what we're talking hypotheticals here and abstract, so it's a little bit difficult. But there's two things. The money is part of it, and the opportunity. So if a player in Salzburg doesn't, like they've got 5 import defensemen. So if he doesn't see as a young defenseman, well, we've got 5 imports, how much am I going to play? He might be more inclined to
We're talking about stop effect.
Yeah, stop. Well, yes, in this, he may be more inclined to go to Graz. Even though I'm sure the money is good, but there's another thing to consider. How much? I mean, I've only heard rumors that. And I don't want to.
We're not about rumor spreading, so
yeah. I don't want to.
I guess we'll keep it at that. But
I've heard that there's players there that are making over 150, quite comfortably, and more than one. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've heard. I won't say specific players, but they've spent a lot of money on their team. No question about that.
And just to set the record straight, every player deserves whatever he makes, because career is only so long, so got to maximize that. And I always, like, you just have to do the math. If Lucas Haudam, he was seriously coveted by Red Bull Munich a couple of years ago. If you're in that area of being recruited, I guess the salary can't be too bad, and it's so well deserved. So all the money that the players are making good money.
Yeah, and I'm not being critical of what they're making but either. It's just that's how Graz's team is constructed. They've purchased the players, and I'm repeating myself. Now they have to build the team.
I like that saying.
And if you look at the NHL before the salary cap, there were lots of teams that had lots of money that didn't win because they didn't focus on.
Just look at the MLB that still doesn't have a cap, and the Yankees outspending the Red Sox, outspending all the teams each and every year. It's only working for the Dodgers, but they have a phenom player. So
yeah, so it doesn't guarantee anything, and there's no, and because Salzburg has a high a budget doesn't guarantee that they're going to win, because they didn't win. They've won 4 in a row now, but they didn't win every year prior to that. There was somebody else.
A 6-year drought.
Yeah. So there you go. You buy your players, you build your teams.
It's going to be incredibly interesting how this season unfolds. And again, this is the early season storylines that we're talking about. And we've already talked about some of the power plays that are on fire. Some of the power plays that aren't reside in on opposite ends of the league. The Pioneers are close to having a single-digit power play, and Budapest indeed has a single-digit power play. When it goes to the penalty kill, we've got some great penalty kills. Graz is, as of right now, sitting at 95%, and we've got some really bad penalty kills with Linz and Villa, coincidentally enough, your former clubs. What's easier, and again, it's a loaded question, might be a naive question, but what's easier to fix, a struggling power play or a struggling penalty kill?
I think a struggling penalty kill. And the reason I say that is there's so many, if you're talking about the power play, you're talking about all the skills, passing, shooting, hockey IQ, everything. You're talking about everything. When you're talking about the penalty kill, you're basically only talking about defensive skills. So you don't have to worry about passes on the penalty kill normally. You don't have to worry about shooting on the penalty kill. So all the instincts, the offensive instincts you don't need on the penalty kill, which you need in spades on the power play if you want to have a good power play. And so the penalty kill is one that's easier to fix. And so I think that for me, there's no question that it's easier to fix penalty kill.
So obviously there's some hope for Villa fans and for Linz fans that are right now watching or listening. But when it comes to having a great penalty kill, what are kind of the basics? What are the things that you were looking for when trying to field a good PK unit?
Well, the first thing is the personnel that you're looking for. We talked about the skill sets that they don't need, but they do need to have a certain skill set to be on the power play. I always, from a coaching perspective, I always wanted to find penalty killers that played on my third and potentially my fourth lines for a couple of reasons. And one is I didn't want my top offensive players blocking shots because that has a chance to be really, really counterproductive. I wanted to spread out the ice time as best as possible. And you talk about building your team, when you've got somebody playing 30 minutes and somebody playing 5, there's too big a discrepancy there for me. Everybody should have a role where they can contribute to the success of the team if they can do the job. Okay, that's the first thing I would say. And so the skills I'm looking for my personnel on the penalty kill, they have to have a hockey IQ. You can't just throw out somebody who just goes skating all over the ice without any clue of where he's going or why he's going.
That would be me.
Positioning is really important, so you have to have an intelligence to be in the right place. You have to understand when, I'm talking from a personnel perspective, when to pressure, when to get in the shooting lane, when to back off and hold your ice because the other team has complete control.
Again, hockey IQ.
Hockey IQ. You have to have somebody that can win face-offs, because winning a draw can negate the power play really quickly. And what I talk a lot about is smart sticks, and it's part of the hockey IQ as well, where you put your sticks in passing lanes. So you can't make those passes that the offensive team is looking to make for those good opportunities. So a matter of centimeters can be the difference between disrupting an offensive play or allowing a great scoring chance. And having those things in your mind and focus are all part of the hockey IQ. I think you look, any chance you get to disrupt the power play down ice, you do it. So if you get a chance to forecheck in the other team's end, nothing pisses off the power play more than not being able to break out. They get frustrated. Their plan is out the window. Then they have to ad lib, and if you can throw them off balance, you can take the momentum and the philosophy of the power play, and you can work it to your advantage. You want to try and do that any chance you can, is to create down ice pressure if you get that opportunity, and have a plan to, and whatever their breakout is, have a plan to disrupt what they'd like to do. And it's not going to guarantee that you're going to frustrate them or whatever, but it makes them do something that they're not necessarily comfortable with. If you can, force them to dump the puck in and give it up, so you have a chance to maybe get it before they get a chance to set up. So try not to let them skate down the ice, get into the zone, and set up, and then work it from there. So if you can do those things, I think that's the first thing you want to do as far as disrupting the power play, not giving them a chance to set up. And in zone, there's things that I think you want to try and do. You want to be aggressive on dump-ins. So if you get them to dump the puck in, you want everybody to be aggressive to make it difficult for them to get possession and get set up. And then if they do get set up, then you want to eliminate point shots. 80% of the goals that are scored on the power play, and this is a statistical fact, start with shots from the point, getting pucks to the net. So you want to try and eliminate shots from the point. You want to eliminate seam passes. You want to make sure they don't get an opportunity to go from east to west, where the goaltender and everybody has to make big adjustments. So you want to eliminate seam passes, and you want to get in shooting lanes. You want to try and force pucks and shots from outside the dots, so that when the goalie he only has to worry about this part of the net rather than the whole net. By forcing plays to the outside, you do that by getting into shooting lanes, and you want to stay compact when they have control. So don't get moving too much. If they want to stand there and not do anything, let them stand there. Don't force them. If they don't want it, every time they move the puck doesn't mean you have to make a huge adjustment. Keep it compact. Force them to make plays to get you to move, which they'll make because they're on the power play for a reason. Then you have to react to them. Have a plan for loose pucks. So when a puck is loose, it's a free puck. And if you can get there before they get there, then obviously you're going to not give them the opportunity to reset. Clear the zone every chance you get. If you get a puck, get it down the ice. Don't piss around and try and make a play with it, or try and use a feathered wobbler backhand to get the puck out of the zone. Bear down and get it out. Have a clear plan for face-off wins. And those are the things that I think you focus on to have improve your penalty count. And I mean, what are these things? They're positioning, they're battling for loose pucks, nothing to do with the offensive side of the game. So I used to kid Craig McTavish when I worked with him with the Edmonton Oilers. He was one of the premier penalty killers in the NHL when he was there with the Oiler teams that won Stanley Cups. And I used to say to Craig, well, anybody can penalty kill. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is skate, position well. I mean, I can teach my dog to get in the right place. And he used to get quite pissed off about that. And obviously that's not true, but there's an art to it as well, and hockey IQ is part of it. And he was one of the best at it.
And one can not only hear but also see that you're getting very passionate when it comes to penalty killing and the coaching points and emphasis. And there'll be some visual examples in just a bit. And we'll start with the worst penalty kill in Fehler. So 14 goals against in 36 penalty kill situations. So if you're facing Villach, you're automatically, just on paper, a 38.9 PP team.
Well, that won't last forever.
But again, there will be some regression to the mean. And before we look at the clips, just a general word about the season Villach's been having, because similarly to last year, start not their best, but they've worked their way up to second in the standing, even though they got this clunker of a penalty kill.
Well, their special teams are mediocre. So their special teams aren't killing them. Their power play is 20%, which is okay.
Not too bad a sign if your 5-on-5 is
exactly.
clicking.
They can score. And they're able to score. They've been getting, I think, very good goaltending. I think Canada's been excellent, and that's one of the things that you look at your penalty kill. Your goaltender's your number one penalty killer. So it's rare when you've got a goaltender who's playing well, and I think Canada's playing well, and your penalty killing is struggling. But they can score, and they've gotten on a bit of a roll. And I mean, this is going to sound. They got Bolzano after a derby, which is always a good time to get a team. Mm-hmm. Win or lose, if you can play a team after, like Bolzano was in Pustertal, and Pustertal Friday, Villach gets them on Sunday. That's an advantage. And again, I mean, you have to go there and you have to win the game. So I'm not taking anything away from Villach at all. And they went into Salzburg, they won, or they got a point. So they went into Graz, a team that everybody thinks, you know, that they should win that game, and they end up getting a job done there. So they're.
Then again, no Corinthian derbies yet, and Klagenfurt has always been their kryptonite at the very least past couple of years.
Yeah, that has the potential.
I mean, that's just sheer fact. A lot of teams haven't played each other yet, so. No,
and you can't argue with that. So they've gotten off to a really good start. And I mean, last year, if you look at it again, they got off to a horrible start, worse than what they have here. But then they really took off, and right now they're able to score goals. They're scoring 4 or 5 goals a game, and if you do that, normally you're going to win. And they've been able to do that against good teams. I mean, they lost to Czechoslovakia at home 4-2, which is a tough one. But I mean, that's going to happen. They're playing well right now.
So the 5-on-5 is clicking. The power play is middle of the road, and it's probably gonna keep improving once the chemistry and everything gets better. We're focusing on things that went wrong so far on a penalty kill for Villach, and you brought along some of the clips that you'd like to talk about, just to point out the issues and how quote unquote fixable they indeed are. From the outside looking in, and we've had a look at the clips before, they all seem fixable, but that's theory. It's easier said than done. So we'll just get started with a look at 2 power play goals from Székesfehérvár in their bout against Villach.
Well, the first one here is a face-off, and for me, I always like to press off the draw. I mean, Villach doesn't press here, and you'll see on the replay that...
and we're getting a couple of them.
Yeah, Dylan McPherson gets beat off the wall. You can't see it here. But he gets beat, and we talk about shots from the point. This is just a puck getting thrown at the net, losing a battle in front, and the puck goes in. I mean, you can't blame the goaltender on this. Look at this. McPherson loses his guy. Both defensemen are above him. And, you know, it's just a lack of commitment to positioning a little bit. For me, I like the idea of pressing off a draw. And I think it was Adam Haluka that took the draw there and just stayed. And that allowed the player up top for Székesfehérvár to get the puck to the net. And you saw what happened from there.
And there's a second clip in there too.
Yeah, it was Adam Haluka.
That our guys in the back end will... And
here's a situation here where I just think this is too easy. This is a rim puck. I mean, this is a free puck, and it's allowed for possession. And now they're able to set up.
So they should have played this more aggressively.
I would have. And here you can see Haluka's in, and again, he's the guy here. Now, they've spread things out a little bit now. They've come out of their compact area, and they walk in. Now, as soon as that puck goes down low, you can see, I think it's Kervold that makes a great play in front, but that's a play where the man here's got him, and he knows there's no place else to go, and it just leaves him here, and he slips out, makes a good play. I mean, if you're Hungary, you say that's a great play. If you're Villach, you say it's not covered well enough, and it's not. And I mean, Canada has no chance on that. It's just a matter of not being a little bit stronger and with your coverage in front. And especially when Archibald here's not a one-timer. If the seam pass goes through to a non-one-timer on the opposite side, that's one thing you have to recognize on the PK as well. You never want a seam pass, but if it's a seam pass to a non-one-timer, it's not as dangerous if it's a one-timer pass.
We just saw Luca lose complete sight of Ansik Hurwald. If that happens in a game, and if you're the head coach, is that something that you take immediately to him, how this can happen? Is it something they say for the locker room or for the video analysis maybe a couple of days down the road?
Both, everything. What I would probably do in that situation is I'd bring him in after the period and just show him the clip and just say, it's a great teaching clip, and you want to get to it as soon as you can. I wouldn't necessarily do it in the locker room. I might if I wanted everybody to see it, but I think...
So you're looking for a one-on-one conversation?
I would look for a one-on-one conversation because I don't want to embarrass them in front of, everybody.
Yeah, never a good thing to do.
Show them and say, because you don't want it to happen again. So you want to show him right away so at least he knows what you feel he's done incorrectly so you can not let it happen again.
So those two clips were taken from a game at the beginning of October, Fila against Székesfehérvár. You brought along some of the clips from September, and September is always a box of chocolates in the Forrest Gumpian sense because you never really know what you're getting and what teams have done in training camp. But by the end of September, things should start resembling properly in terms of the PK and the penalty kill. And by the end of September, the penalty kill was probably at the heights of its badness, for the lack of a better word.
Well, I disagree with you. I think you should. Good. I think you should have, when you come out of your preseason, I think you should be ready to not use the first 5 games of the regular season to get your game together. As a coach, I'm saying we use the preseason to get our game together. But
in years past, it's more often than not, at the very least, it feels that way, been the case.
Yeah, but I'm just saying ideally that's what you want to try and do. It doesn't mean you're going to be, but you should at least be knowing what you should do. So even the mistakes that are made here, they shouldn't be made just because it's September. It's going to take a while again, but you should know what the key points you should know coming out of preseason.
The clips that you brought along from the Graz game from September 28th, and we'll just let this run and you'll do your analysis on the clip. What were you looking for there? What went wrong on Fila's end?
Well, we talked about some of the things that...
Point shot.
Yeah, well, point shot, but they get pulled out. They're not compact. Like, there's no reason to go out here and we don't get in... Why go out here? Just stay, hold, and same thing there. There's traffic in front. Well, I don't know if there is or not. But again, this shot is... They got just a good traffic in front getting the puck through. You have to get in that shooting lane as best you can. There's a seam pass. And for me, with no disrespect, that's a stoppable puck. That's a shot from outside the dots, which is what you want. And that's just one that the goalie has to have. He has to be... because this is not a real one-timer.
With all due respect to the great Jean-Philippe Lamoureux, that upper corner, that was a goal that he used to concede once or twice a year too.
Yeah, but I don't think that went up the upper corner. Yeah. I think it went through him, didn't it? Did it go over his shoulder?
Yeah, I think it went over the shoulder. You're the expert.
No, I'm just saying. Let's look at it.
Yeah, okay.
I still think he has to stop this. Maybe, yeah, it did go over his shoulder, didn't it? He still has to stop it. I don't care. Because, what else can you do on your penalty kill other than force the shots? You want to take the seam pass away if you can. When that doesn't happen, you have to get a save. But the seam pass makes a move. Yeah, it's over his shoulder. It's a hell of a shot, I guess. That's why you have offensive players in the power play. Your penalty killers don't make that shot.
And there's one more thing to look at here in this clip. Point shot.
Oh, that's just a great play. That's
not even a point shot.
No, that's a quarterback on the power play. But again, they get pulled out, don't get back in time, and instead, like when you get pulled out like this, you got to come inside right away. This is going to force the shot outside, but he gets out there and doesn't get back. And we talk about smart sticks. You got to get those sticks inside, and you got to, once that puck goes out, you got to get back inside. And that was just that's a great play by Balen.
But just looking at those couple of clips, what's the biggest issue that haunted Villach in those games? Is it lack of positional discipline? Is it lack of aggressiveness? If you had to put the finger on one issue that you try to fix first, what would that be? Positioning,
getting in the shooting lanes, making people shoot through you, and forcing everything outside. I'd get in, and the sticks and getting in the shooting lanes. Another example occurred early in the season too, when the PK wasn't ready as well. Happened against Salzburg. Hard fought point that Villach earned in an overtime loss. But two things, and the first one is dealing with the zone entry. Yeah, we talked about wanting to disrupt the power play breakout. This is just too easy. Too easy of an entry. You have to try and hold the blue line as best you can, and that's that's just. And here's a loose puck. We talk about loose pucks, clearing it. This puck doesn't get out, so it's going to give Salzburg. We don't see it on the clip, but it's going to give Salzburg an extra chance, which you don't want to give the any power play, an extra chance. And here again, we're looking for. This is going to be a push down, and again, we're not in the shooting lane, and a one-timer. And I've seen him score a few goals like that. He can. Yeah, Conor Corcoran has been a revelation. Yeah, normally that's Schneider teeing it up, or Ovechkin. Yeah, why not give Salzburg another great shooter? Yeah. Because they've been lacking them in the past, huh? But this is just a situation. Again, this shot is from the outside. It's, it's pretty hard. You want to try and get in the shooting lane here, but this is outside enough where, again, for me, that's one the goalie has to have. It just goes through his legs. And that's, again, not... I mean, it's a good shot. It's a one-timer, which makes it difficult. He's got the mountain always in front, which nobody in the world does it better than the Thomas Raffel. So that's a bit of a distraction. But for me, that's one that has to be stopped, because you're going to have to give up something. Yeah, that goal probably is on Canada, but he's definitely won more games than he lost himself. I mean, that's just one. No question. I'm not. That's like you go for. But it's you could find 50 clips where he's made unbelievable saves. It's just a mixture of things that haven't meshed yet. And one more clip until we conclude the Villach analysis on the PK comes from an early season game in Ljubljana, where the floodgates really opened. What did you see there? Well, here you're going to see. We're talking about smart sticks. We don't get pushed out too far, which is fine. There's nobody in front, but look at this pass. There's 1, 2, 3 guys where they have an opportunity to get a stick in the lane, and it ends up getting through. And Patan, of course, Patan makes this. Yeah, but see the sticks here. Is that Elias Valenta? His stick is up top instead of inside. It's lazy inside. And that's not a smart stick, and that opens up that seam. And again, he lets it go right away. If he cradles it, and that's what you have those players on the power play for, because they can make those plays. But it's not only for the casual fans out there, and I guess people who listen and watch this program, they're a little more invested in their hockey. It sounds so simple, being disciplined with the stick and having it in the right position, but then again, why is it so difficult to get it right? Can I ask you a question, Martin? Anytime. Why would you ever take your stick off the ice in hockey? Well, there's no reason for it. Ever. Why would you ever take your stick off the ice? And so it's just a matter... unless I want to commit something that's... Well, unless you want to knock a puck out of the air or whatever. Or to play the puck, you'd want to have your stick off the ice. Why would you want to have your stick off the ice ever, other than to play the puck? Point made. And now it's just a matter of having a smart stick. If you just lay your stick and nothing. Well, it really pisses an offensive player off when the stick is sitting there. They get so frustrated because they can't make the play that they want. The stick is there. They got to do something different than what they're thinking they're going to do. And it's just a simple thing. And here it's just a matter of not being disciplined enough to have your stick and it's hockey. It's a bit of hockey IQ knowing where the play is going to go, anticipating where the play is going to go, and just laying your stick down in front of it.
That kind of concludes our analysis as regards Villach and its problems on the penalty kill, and problems in abundance have been the case in Linz too. Again, at the time of this recording, and this could change over the weekend, they're sitting in last place of the standings. Biggest surprise to me so far. They're sitting in second to last place in terms of the penalty kill, and it's not news or new to Linz that they're having a bad start to the year. They had an even worse one last year where they lost the first 3 games, only scored, I think, 1 goal. This year, at the very least, they got the monkey off their back in winning their home opener, but it's gone downhill or almost downhill entirely from that. What's plagued the Black Wings?
Well, that's a good question. I think that they've had some injuries. Their number 1 goalie's been out a little bit, which is always not a good thing over an extended period of time. They've had some other key people out of their lineup, but that happens to everybody. They just haven't. They've let a couple games slip away. It's interesting because they go into Vienna.
The one in Vienna comes to mind first.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, they go to Vienna and they're ahead 4-1, and they end up losing the game 7-6. Well, their goaltending wasn't strong in that game. So you win that game, and then you go to play Hungary and you lose in Czechoslovakia 1-0. Well, that's a game you can easily win. You get a bounce and whatever. So now you got 2 more wins and 2 fewer losses. And the whole
trajectory changes.
Everything changes. And that's what happens when you see those losses pile up, even though, Klagenfurt, they lost 3-2. Klagenfurt scored late to win the game. So there's a game they could have won. So are they playing poorly, or are they just not winning? That's what you have to try and decipher as a coach. So it's not just about the wins and losses. You can play good games and lose them. So they have to decide, whether they're playing well enough where it's going to turn around, or if they're struggling as much as it appears in the standings. And that's where, as a coach, you have to try and make that determination. You never want to panic, but you have to be realistic about the evaluation of where you're at as a team, and then make your adjustments and your work ethic accordingly to what your thought process is. But each time you lose, the confidence of your team wavers. And I think part of it too, when you look at Linz, is, and we talked about this off air when we were walking here after you had to pick me up because I got off at the wrong train station, which is typical of me. Well, actually, it's not typical, but it was today. So Linz had a really good year last year. They went to Game 7 of the semifinals. They finished in 4th place, which is the highest they've finished in a long time. They brought back the core of that group. And I'm not saying this happened, but often what happens in that circumstance is your team thinks it should pick up where it left off, and playing your best hockey of the year, because that's what you finished with, was your best hockey in the year of your year. But you can't do that. Even if you brought the same entire team back without any changes, you can't do that. There's a process from the beginning of the year to build your team, and you cannot make the steps in the process, miss the steps in the process, because you'll pay the price for it. And I'm not saying this has happened, but that can happen where you have to go. Players get awful stupid over the summer because you think, well, these guys know how to do this. No, they don't. You have to go back and you have to reteach everything. What happens when you have a team that you know well and you have a lot of players back is they get quicker to where they're playing at a high level because they've learned it before, but you cannot miss the steps. And if you miss the steps...
There's a reason why it's called reps. repetitions.
And revisiting everything. And if you miss those things, if you think, they know it, they don't know it. You can't assume they know it. You have to revisit it. And maybe in 2 days they've got it again instead of a week, but you can't miss those steps. And I think quite often when you have a returning team, and not only you as a coach, but also the players. The players, well, why aren't we playing like we were when we finished the year? We're all the same, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, you got to go through it all again, rebuild it all again, and then go from there. I mean, the season's not lost for Linz. It's only 9 games, but... And
they've played only 8, so other teams have played 10.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens is confidence, you start to doubt, and then you have to stop that really quickly in order to get going in the other direction, or else it can really become a problem.
So that's a version of an explanation what could be going on, and that's something that fans, media, and also sponsors are looking for, because at the end of the day, and you are one of the handful or a person who knows it better than most out there, it's a wins and losses business at the very end of the day.
That's right.
And you can play good hockey if you're on the losing side more often than not. There's this unrest
Absolutely.
that starts to creep up, and what we want to do is not only entertain but also educate here, and that's why we try to educate Linz fans a little bit on the struggles of their penalty killing. Sits in 12th place at the time of the recording. It's a 65.38% penalty kill. Abysmal too. So if you are the team playing Linz, you have a power play worth 34.6%, which is really good. Probably not sustainable again. But what has gone wrong on the Linz PK this year? You brought along a clip from a September game, or clips from a September game against Villach.
Well, I think that one of the same things we talked about with the Villach penalty kill. Linz has a different philosophy. Is they like to spread out their personnel. Like they want to have, as I mentioned to you earlier.
Not sent them on a penalty kill, for example, the 2 top scorers.
Yeah. Now this is just a situation where the last clip where they made 2 seam passes, which we talked about before. On this clip, yeah, you can see it here. 1 seam pass and then another seam pass. The goalie has no chance. And I don't think their goaltending's been at the level it normally is, and that always affects your penalty kill. I think it's different with Canada in Villach, because I think he's been really strong, and I don't think the Linz goaltending has been at the level that it will be at and normally is at. They've had some injury problems there also. And here's a situation again. Villach does a good job of changing the point of attack, but we get a seam pass here, a loose puck, and that's just a lucky bounce really for Villach, and this is how penalty kills struggle when you get bounces like this, chance to potentially clear it, and he clears it right to Hancock, and it ends up in the net. Well, that's just bullshit luck. But if you're a little stronger on that puck, potentially it doesn't happen. So that's how your penalty kill struggles. That could have bounced over a stick. It doesn't. And when things are going bad, it gets worse. And then that's just, I wanted to show that because, you can do a lot of things right and still get scored on when you're killing a penalty.
We're jumping around as regards to the time of the games when they took place. So that was from late September. You brought along one from 10 days later at the beginning of October against Salzburg. Tremendous effort by Linz. Had them on the ropes, but what happened here on the Salzburg power play?
Well, here just where they're really compact, and they make adjustments here. Because of movement, and you see there's going to be a seam pass that comes here. Again, just a seam pass where they have 4 guys in a position where they can potentially prevent this pass, and it still happens to get through. And through to a one-timer. So...
I think the replay is great because goal scorer says great pass, Mickey.
Yeah, he does. But, I mean... There's a stick, there's another stick, and he still is able to feather it through. A backside D-man doesn't get up. I mean, that is a great pass, but it's still one that those are the type passes you have to prevent.
Sometimes it's as simple as this. Another example taken from an end of September game 2, but the Black Wings, or examples, plural, come from the game in Bolzano?
Well, that's just, again, too easy on the breakout. Too easy for the entry. For me, puck possession right away without any work. A guy left all alone in front. They don't score here, but they get the puck to the net from up top.
Like there's a metric, like creating a chance and how long it takes you to create the chance after you've entered the zone. That was, what, 3 seconds?
No, it wasn't very long. You just get the puck to the net. And here, I mean, Linz does a good job battling and not allowing anything to happen from there, but there's a guy all alone. Good tip, good save. And then you can see they're all there to make sure it doesn't go in. And the referee waved it off.
And that's the second example that you wanted to talk about.
Another easy entry. They get pulled out. Pulled out, shot, traffic in front. No seam pass there, but just no shooting lane, walks in, doesn't get in the lane, got to force that puck to the outside. And there's really no traffic on that one. But
so before we look at the last set of clips that you brought in with you, from what we've seen so far, a lack of aggressiveness too, a lack of positional discipline, a lack of sticks too. How comparable are the Linz problems on the PK to the Villa problems on the PK?
Well, it
seems very similar.
They're very similar. They're very similar. And I didn't get an opportunity to look at teams that have the top penalty kills to compare, because we didn't want to focus on strictly on penalty killing. But you see the difference when Salzburg kills a penalty, for example. They're aggressive and they're getting in the lanes quickly and forcing people to make plays they don't want to make. And the top penalty kills do that. Plus they get great goaltending on top of it. And that's not to say that, not blaming all this on the goaltenders, definitely not, but that's a big part of it always.
The aforementioned Vienna game that could be a fork in the road for Linz, maybe, one way or the other. They were up big, and then Vienna came back, and that with the aid of their power play.
Right. Well, the same things we talk about. Up top, seam pass. I'm not sure why this was a questionable, this is a debatable goal, whether it should have counted or not, but they did count it for whatever reason. I guess, again, over, seam pass. Again, two sticks that are just a hair away from making the play.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's a game of inches.
Yes, that's the difference between that puck not getting through. And the offensive players, to their credit, Marco Richter does a good job here being in front, but I don't know. And if each time you move on the penalty kill, you open something up. So you have to make sure you try and stay compact. Now here we're, again, complete control, which is fine. And here's just a walk-in, no shooting lane. Was that? Yeah, that's Lansinger. Lansinger can do that. If you look at, he's a good shooter. You can see on the replay where, I mean, this is probably when you see it from behind, you're thinking, well, geez, maybe the goalie can get this one. But again, you don't get in the shooting lane. The next replay shows it, I think, a little bit better. And right now you can see Vienna's got momentum. They're coming back in the game.
Yeah,
he's looking on the other side of the screen. That screen's not there. He makes that save. Traffic in front.
That was the goal that tied it.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the way to a big Vienna win.
See, he just misses this in the shooting lane. Just misses it, and that's the difference. And Tyrone there was looking on a great presence in front on the power play. You need that. They get it, and then it ends up going in. And at this point, I think you said it tied the game. Momentum had shifted. And you gotta find a way to get a kill when that happens, and unfortunately for Linz, it didn't happen there.
Yeah, it's so hard to define momentum, but you can definitely feel it once a team has it.
Yeah, and it doesn't go from game to game. Momentum
or season from season.
No, momentum doesn't travel from game to game, and it doesn't travel from period to period. When the period stops, the momentum is stopped, and then when you come out the next period, you have the opportunity as good a chance as the next team to get it back. When you're in a game, when you're in the flow of the game, momentum shifts. You have to make them shift, and it goes back and forth. And that's the great thing about hockey. Momentum shifts so quickly within the speed of the game. But once you get a break, you get a chance to reset, and the momentum is open to anyone to get it back. And again, obviously from game to game, but from period to period also.
After the show, or before the show, 2 more games will have been played. So as of right now, when you're watching this or listen to this, the 1/4 of the regular season has been played. 12 games roundabout for most of the teams, 48 rounds or 48 games.
That would be about a quarter of the season.
It's a quarter. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. Well, my math is very often dodgy, but not in this case. So we talked about early season storylines, and obviously, hopefully, this was educational enough for the people out there. But what are you looking for when we talk about maybe mid-season or the later stages of the regular season? What are stories that you're already interested in, where you're wondering how they turn out?
Well, we've talked a little bit about some of the things. I'm really interested in the battle for the top 6, because coming into the season, I felt there were 10 teams that could really battle for a top 6 spot, and I have no reason to think that that's not going to still be the case. And I think it has a chance to be a fantastic race for that position. You know, can the teams that are there now, can Ljubljana maintain their play? Can Linz rebound and get back into the race? Is that going to change? What's Salzburg going to look like?
How does a healthy Salzburg look like? Yeah.
What do they look like when they get healthy? Can Graz be the team everybody thinks they're going, or they should be? You know, these are the things that
we haven't even talked about injured Klagenfurt as well. How does a healthy Klagenfurt look too?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of the battle so those are the things that I'm going to be really interested in seeing as the season unfolds, because there's been some things that have happened here. Are they sustainable? We'll see. Like I mentioned to you earlier, Ljubljana had a very solid start to the season last year. They have a different team now, but they had that same start, and then they faltered and dropped from a surefire top 6 team. Can Czechoslovakia, can they rebound? Last year they pissed a top 6 spot away in the last 15 games when they were a lock, and now they're struggling. Are they going to be able to turn their game around and become a team that fights for a top 6 spot? These are all the things that I'm going to be really interested in seeing.
Couldn't have put it better. And the best way to enjoy the games, if you're not in the arena, is obviously on TV or via the streams. Tremendously educational. It's only been the early season storylines. We've got to bring you back for mid-season, late season, playoff, if you're available. And if you're getting out of the train at the right station. But this time around, everything worked. For you personally, I hope you won't remain a free agent coach for much longer. But as long as you are, you're always welcome back here on Weekday Hockey O'Clock.
Well,
thanks for doing this, Coach.
And hopefully, hopefully the people don't get tired, or at least get something out of it, because I get so excited and worked up. I hope I don't bore people to death.
There's still there's a lot of fire left. So if you're looking for a great coach and a great teacher of the game, look no further. Again, tremendously appreciate you being on Winter Day Hockey O'Clock. Thank you, Coach.
My pleasure.